welcome to Texas!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hey guys, and welcome to episode 13 of the 911 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, EJ, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Katie and Grace.
Hey there.
Today we're going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 2 of Lone Star called 2100 Degrees. Just a reminder, we won't be recapping the episodes. We'll just be talking about what stood out to us. So let's get talking, because there's a lot to talk about.
Yes.
Oh my god, yes.
First of all, the pool party during the pandemic, like, that's about right on point, because a lot of people did that, but, like, ever.
Yeah. Well, we did learn that it was set in, September, so, like, kids are going back to school, because not all universities did online in the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
And then, lava.
Oh yeah, then, like, they showed that, and, like, and stuff, and when they showed that, like, the pool was basically, like, boiling up, I was like, lava!
Yeah.
And then you see the guys, like, skid fall off, and I was like, okay, that was kind of gross. I was like, oh my gosh.
Like, I wasn't really expecting it, but I also wasn't expecting the guy to be able to be saved, which we later see that he wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, literally 2100 degrees, he just baked. And, you know, even though I really didn't like the guy from, like, you know, we see he's being a jerk to the girl earlier and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, I don't think I'd wish that on my, like, biggest enemy.
Right.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, you're such a jerk. Like, you're one of those people I actually hate.
Yeah.
Yes! Like, oh, you want to fight? Oh, never mind, the volcano did it for us. Okay.
Yeah. This scene actually reminded me of, there's a natural disaster movie called Dante's Peak that's set in Idaho, which actually is filmed in the town my grandmother grew up in. And there was a scene in there where a woman was pushing a boat in a sulfur water. And she ended up, when she came out of the water, she had, like, no skin on her bones, on her legs, because she was, it was like the sulfur had just eaten away her skin.
It's nasty, but dang.
But yeah, it's like, I had that clip of, like, that reminded me of that when we were seeing it, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's totally what would happen. So after we get the scene, we get, like, 8 hours earlier, so we find out, like, earlier in the day, we're at the fire station.
In the party/gathering that we have been speculating about for weeks.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. And it was a party celebrating Owen's remission, which we did have that as, like, among the options.
Yeah.
And, like, oh my gosh, this was such a cute scene, though. Like, all this was put together.
Yeah.
And the free tumor cake.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And Owen hit it. He's like, this is the ugliest cake I've ever seen. Why does it look like this?
And, like...
And up close, it's even worse.
Yeah. I think my favorite part of, like, this part of the scene was just how excited TK was about all this. Like, it's like, oh my god, like, I can't.
Right. He's like, I gave you skates to the bakery.
Yeah, I was like, of course you did.
Like, of course you did, but also poor bakers having to work with that.
I know, it's like, I worked in the bakery for a while, but I'm like, I think that would have been, like, the weirdest request. Like, can you put the scan in to make a tumor out of us? What?
And Owen hit it pretty well, even though Paul was... I love Paul just being like, I objected. Owen hit it with, like, okay, I'm both repulsed and moved. I'm at a loss. And then TK's like, a 73% loss.
Right.
I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so typical, though.
And we also find out between episode 1 and 2, there's time for him to get a second opinion. So this is, like, after he gets a second opinion to confirm that it's definitely gone, or that much gone.
Though I think it's only, like, separated by a couple of weeks, if I remember something else from the episode correctly. But that's still plenty of time. Should, like, the right doctor be available.
And, like, every time TK spoke, I looked, when I was watching it, I was like, Carlos looked at him every single time, and I was just like,
he's happy that TK's happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of,
Oh my
that
god.
that was probably like, I don't know, it was like the best thing ever, their whole scene. Like, I was like, better, like, it was obviously better than we expected, and
well, and even
we got a lot more than obviously the promo, but whatever.
well, and
Like there was so much packed into this.
Yeah, I liked it, and like, oh, just so much.
Right before this scene, I really loved it because, like, so Carlos is there, so he hugs Owen, TK hugs Owen.
Yes,
my heart.
I was like, oh, that's awesome, like, because we've never seen Carlos interact with Owen
much beyond like work.
Yeah, so this was really cool to see him like, and he's there. He's not on his uniform, so he's totally like off the clock and came for this party and free tumor cake.
Yeah.
But then
I love their casual banter. Like,
yeah, it was cute. Like Carlos being like, "It's cool that your mom came down to us," and TK's just like, "It's cool that you did."
Babe.
Thanks for being here, babe.
Yeah.
Oh
Thanks
my
for being
god.
here. Yeah, exactly.
I love that. And
like,
so it really,
I'm here for all the pet names.
Yeah. So right before this scene again, when they kind of disperse, in the background where Owen's introducing Gwen to Tommy, you can see Mark patting Rafa's shoulder, and like knowing what we know about the episode now,
it was like,
I was just like, damn.
Yeah, honestly, I did not notice that. I think
I didn't either.
A good amount of it went by so quickly, and it did go by quickly, whatever was at the front, people are going to notice first. I've only watched it twice. So.
Yeah, I think, same. And I think I like this whole scene because it's like, it feels like it's so relationship goals for me, and like it's like, I don't even know how to put words to it, and then like, I don't know, just it was so casual but also like not, and I liked it. And the ending where TK's like, "So, speaking of parents, when am I going to meet yours?" And Carlos is just like, he wants some more punch.
He just totally ignores it.
Plead the fifth.
And TK's face on that, like,
he's like,
like, he doesn't look like wrongly bothered, if that makes any sense, but he does look like, excuse me, what?
I think
you just ignore my question?
Yeah, I think he's more like, oh, okay.
He's befuddled right now.
Yeah, apparently we're not talking about that.
Yeah.
Though I would like to go a little further back into that particular scene and just like appreciate them talking about TK's parents, because it's so, TK's line is so relatable. Suspiciously calm and reasonable, but we'll see how long that lasts.
Yes, I love that line.
And I feel like that, I feel like a lot of relationships, like between friends or just plain relationships, other people will look from the outside and be like, okay, that's suspiciously calm. But like seeing this is, once again, just so relatable. And I just kept cracking up whenever I watched that. Carlos is saying that the honeymoon period lasts a while. I'm like, okay, are we talking about TARLOS here, baby?
I know. Well, the way
felt
he
like
asked,
we were.
and the way he kind of said it made me think, like, are we hinting at not just them?
Also, the hard eyes that he was kind of giving TK in that moment.
Totally.
Just like, this can last a while, like, hard eyes. And it's like,
oh,
okay, yeah, you are. You're whipped, baby.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, I was like, we don't know anything about Carlos's past enough. I'm like, he said almost like he spoke from experience with the honeymoon period. So like, is there a relationship in the past that we don't know about that,
I don't think so, because
maybe
they showed his parents and they didn't look like they didn't like that. If it was like past, I feel like it would have looked a lot different. But I definitely don't, I don't know, I don't know, like, what to think of that. Like, why? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
I know.
Yeah.
So, like,
I'm like,
we could speculate all day, but, like, we just don't know.
Yeah. That's, like, the one thing I don't have a strong speculation on. Like, I think there's a reason why he was avoiding it, but, like, I don't know what that reason is.
Yeah.
The thing was, we know TK meets Carlos's parents. And I think I heard that was episode 4 or 5.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Friends with Benefits. And, like, I did not see anything even remotely tense about that scene. So I am... obviously, we've only gotten a clip of it.
Yeah.
But... I don't know. I feel like it's going to be less drastic than people are probably making it out to be.
Yeah.
Like, I doubt it's anything having to do with Carlos being gay.
Yeah,
because they've already established that that's not a huge factor anywhere in their entire storyline. Like, I should say problem instead of factor.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm sure there's a reason. I'll be really interested to see. But, yeah, I think I am able to eliminate some things it could be, but I can't really make any calls on what it might be. Because we've gotten so little, we don't know anything about his parents.
Yeah, everything's up in the air. I mean, we've got so many options and different ways it could go. I mean, and we don't technically, I mean, yeah, we know that he's going to meet his parents. I've heard speculation like, well, is he adopted? Is he ashamed of his parents? I mean, there's just different things, and I'm like, Carlos portrays himself as a very strong individual, very passionate about family. So I wonder how that translates to his family. So yeah, we'll see. And I mean, I know that, you know, the next episode is going to be very heavily focused on the wildfires,
and 118
crossover.
We're not going to probably even have Carlos in there. I mean, we might, but it won't be as much.
We might see him, like, in passing, especially since they're in Austin. Well, no, I think we heard something about them not being actually in Austin.
Yeah, they're in West Texas.
But we might get something, like, before the wildfire.
Exactly.
Like, we might get a little...
Be careful.
...scene there.
Or after. Yeah.
Or after, yeah. Because I'm expecting we might see him, since we know Owen goes down with Hen in the helicopter.
Yeah.
And we know, like, we see him being carried out there and everything. He might show up to support TK later.
Yeah.
But other than that, he's not... I don't think he's going to be a big part.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be very, like, fire-related focus. It's not even, like, medics-wise. I don't think that will even be a big focus to the episode.
Yeah, so I mean... Yeah, and I... You know, so it's definitely going to be cool to kind of, like... So when we come back in episode 4, we'll have... like time to see and kind of experience it, and I hope the hesitation that Carlos shared was more of a I don't know, like
like maybe he wasn't ready to cross that bridge or something,
you know, because he works with Owen, so it's you know, we've talked about this before, since he works with Owen it's a little different, you know, whereas his parents.
They met each other before he even technically met TK.
Yeah.
Even though it may have just been by a few minutes.
Yeah.
It's a different thing.
Yeah.
So also in this scene, they're kind of in that same like environment. We have Tommy kind of sitting in the background watching everything. And Grace comes over and wants to know what's going on and why she's hanging out in the back, and she's just I feel for her in that moment, you know. She's just like, because we do find out in this episode she's only been there about a month. So she's kind of just, I think, still struggling with being away from her family. And yeah, so I can understand how she responds. And she's like, you know, it's been like hell. And I love how Grace was like, who's been giving you hell? She's like, you know, whoever it is, you know, I'll send Judd against him or whatever. And
if it's Judd, then you leave him to me.
I love that. So, like, that's
yeah,
so great.
I love her. No, my favorite part in that whole scene was like, honestly, Gracie, it's been like hell, and Grace is like, oh no, ma'am. That was my favorite line.
Oh no, ma'am.
I love that part.
Yeah,
like
I love it.
That means it's a cute scene, and I love that we can kind of see the relationship that Tommy and Grace have.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, we saw a glimpse of it during the premiere, the pilot episode, but, like, this we get more of it, and I'm here for this.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like, loving that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, like, it, you know, because I know we'll get some stuff, and then I just, like, I am not making judgments on Tommy yet. I am not totally sold on her.
Oh yeah, same. Yeah. And I'll give my thoughts on that later because like, oh my god, like just this episode kind of like, I mean, I kind of in the first episode I felt it a little bit, but like I definitely felt it more in this episode about my opinions. And like I know like I got a lot of messages this week, people being like, how do you feel? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm not completely sold on her, and there are a few things she did in this episode that were just like kind of just were not right to me. But like, I'll get to that later.
Yeah.
We'll expand on that later, but I really liked her during the pilot episode. And I still really like her, but this episode, it was very high stress.
Yeah.
And during high stress episodes, you're going to get the best or the worst sides of people.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I feel like we got a little bit of the worst side of her.
Yeah.
Well, and
not in a bad
not even that
sense necessarily. Yeah. Not really the worst, but definitely not, I guess, the most flattering side.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and it's...
But we will expand on that later.
And I you know, I love Gina Torres. I think she's an amazing actress, and she's doing very well. But yeah, the last 2 episodes, there's been a lot to take in with Tommy, and I'm just not 100% yet on her. So
yeah,
and as we talk through this episode, and then I know in future episodes we'll get more of Tommy, and my opinion may change, and I may sway more one way or the other. So we'll see. And you know, kind of after this scene, we see Owen up in his office with a piece of cake sitting in front of him. And I love how...
like, it's got a gorgeous inside.
Red velvet cake, yeah, so...
Which combined with the coloring of the frosting, it's really not that great.
Right. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I'm still hung up on the cake.
Yeah.
I kind of love that it was Gwen that came up and kind of called him out, because in there, aside from TK, she's the one that's known him the longest. To kind of...
I think I like Gwen best in this scene. Like, actually, probably in this episode more than I liked her in the pilot. But especially this scene, like, she called him out on his bullshit. Mm-hmm. She wasn't letting him get away with it. I was just like, no, we're not leaving this here. Like, come on.
Well, and it's obvious that we've kind of learned in the last 2 episodes that even though they kind of bickered and, you know, they divorced, that there was a relationship there that maintained, and even if it was just for TK, and now because he's an adult, they can remain like friends. And I love how Owen said, you know, nothing's bottled up. Yeah, and I was like, that's totally forewarning into like the entire episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I feel for, you know, Owen in this situation too, because he's now got a second opinion that yes, he's, you know, cancer is definitely, you know, he's in remission and things are looking up, and he's still trying to process that. And I think that's what the doctor was hinting at in the first episode was, you know, maybe you need to talk to a counselor and just kind of process the positives. Because cancer diagnoses can definitely make people quickly think about the end, more so than others.
Because it's known as such a leading cause of death.
Right.
And so people are immediately going to think about that.
So
if they don't, I'm a little more concerned for them. Let's just be honest. True. But yeah, I love how we get like a precursor to like one of the very end scenes of the episodes here. And I think it's very... I was wondering what they were going to do with the whole like counseling bit, like what the doctor had mentioned. And like I'm kind of liking the look of what they're doing.
So we'll kind of see what happens with that, and I mean, it's definitely, this storyline is definitely not closed for sure.
No, it's definitely be the theme of the season, and it's definitely gonna appear many times. So,
and I like it because they're not just closing off the cancer thing and throwing it in the trash. They're expanding on it in a different way.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid about. Like, I was afraid that, like, season 1, the cancer was a big storyline, and that's basically kind of, like, one of the many themes of the season.
Right.
And I was afraid if they closed that storyline and said, oh, he's in remission, oh, he's fine, like, I feel like that would have just been, like, terrible. I don't know how to put it.
Yeah.
Like,
it would have ruined the authenticity of the show.
Yeah. And just because he's in remission doesn't mean that he's, like, done. Like,
that doesn't mean it can't come back.
Right?
I think that's one big thing.
That, and he also still has, like, a lot to work through. Like, the cancer in the first season was physical, and now it's going to become mental.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we do know he's supposed to have a surgery to remove that portion of, cancerous material that's still left. Yeah. And so there's going to be that, like him having to make the decision whether or not he does that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it'll be interesting to see how much he relies on, like, his logical mind rather than his self-destruction.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so moving on from this scene, we get kind of the mini golf course where this family is golfing, and the dad is struggling to, I guess, hit a hole in one or something for a Sunday for his kid, and he gets mad, and there's a storyline with the family that he's been bottling up some stuff that they're going to lose their house because he's a real estate broker or something, and he's got all these commercial properties that are sitting empty because of the pandemic closing a lot of commercial stuff down, and they're going to lose their house and stuff. So he's struggling, and he starts beating up the little devil head, which I was like, okay, so he's mad and he's upset. And so he's like beating this thing up, and then like the ground starts to shake, and this is kind of the...
At first I thought that was like the machinery acting up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then like you see it plummet, then you see the lava, and it's like,
well, we don't even really see the lava.
No, we don't really see lava.
It looks like that little spot was up on a hill, so like it's sunk.
Yeah.
And so like the whole thing like sinks down, and so then he gets
when the crack opened up, it was like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
Which then we have the 126 responding to the call, and they have that funny smell, and everyone's like, what is that smell? And
Mitchell was like, it smells like earth cut a giant fart. And I was like, that's the sulfur.
Yeah.
And that is the sulfur. Sulfur smells.
Oh, man. And, rotten eggs.
Oh my gosh. And I love this little exchange between Owen and Marjan. Marjan's just like, what are we saying? That a hellmouth opened up under a family paradise fun center? And Owen's like, after the year we've had, would it surprise you? And she's like, nope. That's about on schedule.
I love that line.
And honestly, that is the tone of 2020.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah.
I love the part, like, just, like, a little after this, where, Owen says that Marjan's gonna repel, and she's like, I get to repel into that, and TK's like, get to? That's an interesting choice of words.
Yeah.
Because, like, she's obviously...
When I recognize TK's voice, I'm like, oh, okay, that's her boy.
Because obviously she's, like, looking forward to that. Like, it's kind of, like, her thing. And, like, TK's like, yeah, okay, we all know that you're excited. You want to be the one to do it.
Right.
Even though she definitely does, I don't think she's exactly thrilled.
No.
Like, the idea of going into that, but, like...
If somebody's got to do it, it has
daredevil
to be her.
side of her.
Yeah.
The daredevil side of her is like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Right, and I love, kind of right beforehand, we, like, while Owen and Marjan had been kind of bantering about, like, no, it's pretty much on schedule. I love how Paul's like, is it a hot springs? So even he's like trying to figure it out, with his thing.
Oh yeah, he's doing his thing.
Oh yeah, always.
His thing is not able to detect the presence of a volcano.
Yeah. And then we get the scene where Tim is treating the kid who his dad is currently the one they're trying to rescue, and he asks him if his dad's going to die, and Tim says, no, nobody's going to die today, and you can see Tommy in the background be like, what did he just say?
Yes.
Judgment.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but judgment.
That was
I don't even care.
That was hard. I mean, I know in those professions, and even in my job, you can't make promises that you can't keep, and that kind of is stuff that you don't do, and it's true. And we later learn more about how Tim feels about what he said, and I don't know.
I will save my thoughts until we get to that
same
scene, because I have some thoughts that maybe not everyone will agree with about that, but yeah.
No, I agree. It's a tough and slippery slope.
Yeah.
Anyways,
and then Marjan repels, And I love this. Just like, how do you feel up there? And she's like, kind of like a rotisserie chicken.
Yeah, basically.
I had to look up exactly what that was to like make sure I got the reference. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Okay. But like, love that.
Yeah, she
also like the skin melting.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that, but also it's like, ow.
Yeah.
Like having to just be yanked off of that.
Right.
Like, oh, my.
Yeah. So she goes down there and she's like, okay, we're gonna get you out. She's like getting this guy like attached, and he's like, no, and I was like, why is he saying that? And then he like tries to pull his hand away, and that's like he's like sticky to it.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, that was kind of.
I had a moment of going, what am I seeing?
Right.
But
Oh my.
I'm like, why is his clothes not stuck?
Yeah.
I was like, his clothes would have like scorched off if it's that hot to melt skin. I don't know.
I mean,
It's a show. I know.
they could have. Did we see his front after he was lifted?
Yeah. His clothes were fine.
Okay.
I mean, they were a little dirty, but
Yeah, that definitely.
unless it was like super hot steam that hit his face, and then like when he landed, it wasn't so much the area; it was just where he'd gotten hit, and then how he was laying, or I don't know, but yeah,
I don't know. Like it would have made a lot more sense for them to have scorched off, but I mean, I guess little bits like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so, Marjan saves the guy. Love that. And I love Owen's comment of, like, scoop up what you can and get out of there. Like a spatula.
Oh, yeah, that was nice.
It's like, oh, no.
Right.
But he's not wrong. Like, in that case, you either leave the guy and get out yourself, or you just take what you can with you.
Yeah.
And she took what she could with her.
Right.
Which, all in all, he's probably going to be scarred for life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's gonna have
he's
a life.
alive.
Yeah, he's gonna have his life.
Yeah. And, like, she was at that point where you either get out there yourself or you just take him with you. And that is not a time where you can debate all the ethics or the pain of what you're about to do.
Yeah.
You're just
it's
like, nope, gotta
literally
go.
like ripping a Band-Aid off. Just do it quick, and then you can recover later. And paramedics can administer pain medication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, he can get skin grafts if he needs to or something. Like, all the appearance thing, that's whatever. It's just, he was alive, and now his family would have been a lot worse off.
Yeah, so then after he's rescued, then fire shoots out of the trench, and Owen kind of ducks, has everybody duck, and they're like, what's going on? And then I love Judd's like, I told y'all that wasn't methane.
And they're like, what the hell is it?
And then we're back at the station, and they're all watching the news, and they're talking about the volcano. So it is based off of the true, real-life Pilot Knob volcano just outside of Austin. It has been extinct for millions of years. And I love that they use something accurate and real. Like, because I remember when we were first talking about a volcano in Texas, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and she's like, but it's not real. And I looked it up, and I'm like, well, yeah, it actually is. So they did actually use legit, like, real geography.
And see, that's what I like about the franchise.
Yeah.
Is that they, with the OG and 911, they use real locations, real landmarks, real things, and then they turn it. And so that has the trick of playing with your mind of going, oh no, what if that actually happened?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure during watching that scene, if I had lived in Texas, in Austin, I would have been like, oh, crap.
Right.
Like, I think I'm gonna move.
Cooper agrees.
I was like, I hear Cooper.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, my dog's been going off in the background, so.
Yeah, always.
Right.
Oh boy.
Come on, Coop.
Well, at home.
He's like,
And, like, it's seeing everybody. I love Judd's going, what was it, like, yeah, we noticed, or, oh, you don't say, about the volcano.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, his sassy self is coming out. It's like, love that.
Right. And then so we get kind of, so the crew is all back, they're all covered in soot, and they're watching the news, and then while they're kind of watching it, Tommy comes over to Tim. She's like, "Hey, Tim, can I talk to you in private?" And she pulls him aside and starts basically
choose him out
basically for telling the kid something he couldn't truly promise. And that was definitely a little harsh.
Yeah, it was a little hostile to me. Like, I was just like, okay, like, I get he shouldn't have done that.
Right.
But also, like, if I was him, I think I probably would have done the same thing anyway. So, like, whatever. Yeah. But, like, I don't know. I just didn't like it. It was just, like, really? Like, I get, like, it was, like, he shouldn't have done that. And, like, he could have honestly said it differently than, like, nobody's gonna die here today. Like, but, like, I don't know, it made me feel, like, wrong, like, with her, and I just did not like it, and I don't know.
I mean, so I have a couple different opinions on this. Like, she was not wrong in chewing him out.
Correct.
Right.
Because he should not have promised that.
Yep.
And that strictly goes against, because you cannot deliver on that. I mean, honestly, the guy was within a few minutes of not making it out of there.
Right.
And he certainly did not make it all out in one piece.
Yeah.
And so I get that. Like, if I was in the situation, I could put myself in both. If I was in Tim's situation, honestly, it's not that hard to tell the truth but make it kid appropriate. Just being like, I can't promise anything, but the best crew's up there and they're going to be trying to help.
Yep. He could have just...
There is an easy way to do that.
Yeah, he could have just...
But in the heat of the moment...
Yeah.
Yep. All he had to say was, "We're going to do the best they can, and they're the best people to try their best." I mean, it's they.
And so, if I was in Tommy's position, I also would have chewed him out for that, but I would not have done it in the same way.
And the tone she had was very.
It was
hostile.
too harsh. It was too harsh. She was in the right, but it was a little too much.
And that's the difference between a boss that's a counselor, like, can counsel their subordinates, and one that demands of their subordinates. And I think Tommy's still trying to find her footing as she's just coming back. So she's trying to be a hard...
Well, and let's be honest, we saw Tim in the pilot episode. He's not very welcoming to her. He's not very open to, like, receiving her as their boss.
Yeah.
And we see that later on in the same episode.
Yeah.
Which that goes on all areas. Tommy could work on that. Tim could work on that. But when there isn't a camaraderie between a team, and when there's even a little bit of tension, which both Tommy and Tim brought to it, and Nancy, I feel, was very much in the middle, it's not going to be pretty when something like this happens.
Yeah.
And so, like, once again, she was in the right, but maybe work on your wording next time.
The delivery needed to come a little different, and I feel like if she'd have been a little... And this was one scene that really got me, and that made me kind of not want to be 100% feeling her, because I was just like, man, because... I'm envisioning it just like she's trying to prove herself as, like, she can be a captain, and she's a hard, I don't want to say hard ass captain, but, like, she wants to prove that she can do the job that she was hired for.
Yeah.
And so she's trying to make sure that, like, she can keep her team in line and make sure they're doing the right thing. But I just feel like in that instance, she could have counseled him more so than just, like, came at him with, like, a freight train, and that's kind of how I felt. So that's why I was, like, not 100% thrilled with how she reacted.
I mean, I think maybe the initial scolding wasn't so bad. Like, the first few lines she said, that wasn't necessarily that bad, but she didn't really relent.
Yeah.
Right.
That was the thing with, like, Tim trying to explain himself. Every first responder is put into that position.
Right.
And I feel like at some point, every first responder wants to make that same mistake. And she didn't really recognize that. And so I feel like the problem was not the initial scolding, but the words right afterwards continuing the scolding. Yeah. So, not pretty. It definitely was not my favorite moment of hers.
Yeah.
But it was based in something legit.
Right. And then when she walks off, we see that Nancy was basically hearing the whole thing.
Yeah.
But before we get any interaction between Tim and Nancy, we get Tommy and Owen in his office on video conference with, I guess, experts and probably other captains that are dealing with this situation. And like, the experts are trying to explain that it's not necessarily pilot nom, but it's the system around it. Because once magma creates tunnels where it can flow, it'll always flow there.
Yeah.
And as we all know, when there's stuff that's ready to combust, it eventually has to come out somewhere.
Basically, when Mother Nature is ready to throw a fit, she throws a fit.
That's why we have Old Faithful in Yellowstone, or just because it's and that's the heat. The steam is coming from the heated, the water is being heated from underground, and it comes out. And they're talking about like curtains of lava that could go up to 2100 degrees, which obviously is the name of the episode. So the 2100 degrees is definitely referencing the lava that they're seeing.
Yeah.
And that's this. I know in the promos we said, so this can become a mass casualty event. Was where Tommy had said that to them. She's like, so kind of what are we expecting? And any time that this lava system could like spew out can become a mass casualty event if it's not in the right spot or if it's in a neighborhood.
It's looking for any way out it can possibly find.
Yep.
And it is finding it. It found it in the fun center. We see it finds it in the pool. Mm-hmm. It finds it.
Yep.
And that is the thing, because it's not very predictable.
Right.
It's not like, oh, the top of Pilot Knob is spewing lava.
Right.
We can act based on that. No.
Right.
You just have to act based on where the lava suddenly pops up.
Yeah.
Which leaves all the first responders in limbo.
Mm-hmm. Which is why the next scene we see is Owen kind of walking through the engine bay, being like, check and double check everything. I don't want any surprises out there. And Judd's like, what besides the active volcano? And I love Marjan right there. She's like, maybe I should pack the all-weather gear just in case it starts raining blood next. And Owen's like, a little locust repellent wouldn't be a bad idea either. Like, I love
that reference to the 7 plagues.
Yes, me too.
From, I believe, both Judaism and Christianity.
Yeah.
Because it's like thunderstorm of, oh my gosh.
Thunderstorms of hail and fire, water turning into blood, and swarms of locusts.
And it's like, okay, that is scarily accurate.
Yeah. I was like, okay. Well, and so here, I mean, I don't know, I'm not sure where you guys are listening from, but I live in Washington State, and we had the issues of the murder hornets earlier, and I want to say it was about May of 2020. So that was kind of a jokingly reference to that as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know. I don't think we had them here in Maryland, but I do know that when my family and I heard about the murder hornets, we're like, okay, well, this is 7 plagues.
Yeah.
Yep. And then kind of from that banter, you see Tim and Nancy kind of walking their gear over to the ambulance, and he's like, see, that's how a captain's supposed to rally their troops, not just, with some sort of pep talk, and he's kind of just not having it. And
Nancy's kind of reasoning with him, but not necessarily siding with anybody. Right. She's just kind of like, give her a break.
Yeah.
Like, just give her a break. But I love how he was comparing Michelle and Tommy, and he had such a point there. Mm-hmm. Because, he was like, Michelle's basically was a walking episode of unsolved crime. And she still managed to do that. And Nancy's just like, you have a tiny point.
And you have a tiny
He's like, I don't...
That is my concession with anybody, that I'm like, I don't want to admit you have a point, but you do have a point.
She's got to listen to him and stuff. Like, she has to, be like, okay, I'm listening, but, you're being a little...
She's probably... This is probably the millionth time they've had this kind of conversation through the month that Tommy
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like... It's so sad because we all know what happens later.
Yeah.
But I love how we actually got more of Tim and Nancy, because we hadn't really seen a lot of their partnership in the previous episode. And so we're getting more of both characters. And I kind of feel like in later episodes we will be seeing more of Nancy, because I feel like she's been kind of boosted up into... I don't know. We'll see, after this episode, but...
Yeah, I don't think we'll see much of her in episode 3. I don't know, I kind of feel like we won't see,
Well, obviously, there will be a need for
medics. Yeah, but, not... They can't be, as far back as they are.
Yeah. I mean, we will see what happens, and... But in any case, I was happy to see more of them, and I thought this conversation was particularly funny.
I mean, it
was.
And
yeah,
then, and
yeah.
this was like daytime, and then we go to like nighttime. So we have like we're pulled back into the girl from the end of the last episode that was in the food truck, and then there's lava outside.
Yeah, I didn't expect this.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And
I thought it was the lava she was
Yeah,
same. I think that's what everyone was meant to think. But no, it was scorpions.
Yeah, well,
which were running from the fire.
Yeah, they came into the truck.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so legit.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna
like
run.
That.
Just like any animal is gonna run from danger.
Ugh.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my gosh, I do not envy that girl, especially since she is in shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
She is not dressed for battling off scorpions.
No, she's not.
Which I doubt was exactly on her day planner.
Right.
But
and I love that Grace got the call, and she's like telling her, and she's like, "How many scorpions?" Like, I don't know, a whole colony of or something.
So a swarm, a hive, whatever you call them.
Yeah, however they travel.
Yeah,
and then she's like up on top of the counter or something, and she's like freaking out. And like Grace asks her to describe the scorpions, and then Grace is like, "Of course they have to be the ones that are like the most poisonous."
Yeah, like the silence where she's just like, "Oh no," and the girl's like, "Okay, that's bad, isn't it?" And she's like, "No, it's not good."
Right.
Which is truly legit, because if she got bit and they hadn't solved the scorpion problem, she would not live to be rescued.
Right.
So it's like, okay, gotta keep her alive to be rescued.
Yep. And so I love Grace, because she goes on the computer, and apparently she Wikipedia's what can
my
chase
best
him.
friend.
And she's like having her go through all she's like, "What's on your menu?" She's like,
"What do you want the whole?"
I was like, oh, and I knew what Grace was doing. She was trying to see like what stuff there she could use to like deter him. And I know like peppermint oil like will scare like rodents and like sugar ants and stuff. So like I have peppermint oil around my place just to kind of keep any little scurry furry friends from showing up. But so I'm like, I get what Grace was doing. It was just funny the way she was doing it.
But the girl's like, "What the? Do you want to eat you when I her reaction was just really
funny. Yeah. And then
oh,
I love the vinegar.
And then the vinaigrette.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yes, because that is a repellent.
Yep.
And Grace is like, yeah, my resources tell me. And when the girl's like, I love your resources, and Grace is like, that's Wikipedia.
I know.
And I'm like, that is me. Oh, Wikipedia is my best friend. Next to Google.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yes. Like, I'm sure there are more legit websites you could have gone to get that information. Because Wikipedia can sometimes be off the mark. But it's at least a safe bet to at least try something like that, and it works.
Well, Wikipedia is great for, like, if you just want basic information on something, because it's usually going to be good for that, but that's pretty much all it's good for. And, like, honestly, when she was like, it's Wikipedia, I was like, I always wonder if she just, like, knows all this stuff, or if she's just, like, Googling.
She probably is Googling, like, honestly.
What deters scorpions?
Is this a new training?
Oh.
And then she's, and I know the girl was scared, and she's like, well, I'm going to die here. And Grace's like, nope, not as long as you're on call with me. And then, like, while she's spraying this vinaigrette all over the floor to scare the scorpions, the door opens, and it's Carlos.
I was like, Carlos saves the day.
Yes, boy.
Woo! Poppy hops in and saves the day.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, oh my gosh. I'm actually looking up scorpions right now to see if I can identify which one that was.
Yeah. I didn't know much about scorpions, honestly.
Yeah.
If anything. I knew they existed, and that's it.
And then Carlos, like, and I think at some point the girl's still on the counter, and Grace is like, "Are you anywhere near a window?" And she goes, "Yeah." So she looks outside. She's like, "Lava," and Grace is like, "Lava," and she's like, "Yeah." How'd you know? And then Grace like, "You haven't been listening to the news lately, have you?" And then she's like, "No, I've been listening to my meditation tapes." And Grace is like, "Well, you should probably keep those handy."
Yes. Oh my god.
That was I love that.
So I love when Carlos shows up. Okay, so when Carlos shows up, it's like, okay, ma'am, we should go. And so she kind of like, oh my God, there's an officer here. And she's, Grace like, okay, go with him. And I love how when they get in the patrol car and they're heading off, Carlos
you
radios,
see the lava.
Yeah, Carlos radios and says 363H20 Officer Reyes to dispatch. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yes, I was right. So that's what he said in 108. And I was like, I wonder if that's his call sign, because we had talked about a lot of departments don't use badge numbers anymore. They use call signs. And I was like, it's the same one. So I'm like, yes, that must be his call sign or his badge number. So I was like, oh, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Any luck on your Wikipedia search, Grace?
Well, I found one that looks good for the possibility. But the Arizona bark scorpion is one of the most dangerous scorpions in North America. And it doesn't look wrong from, like,
it has a little black diamond on its head, I think is what she said.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And, this might be it. Hang on.
Okay.
Come along.
Sorry, everybody, we went into that. But...
Come along for my research, everybody. This might actually be it. Okay. And the name would actually be just about right. Deathstalker Scorpion. And, there is a little black thing on its head, so I think this is the right one. But, it's known as a lot of names. So, Palestine Yellow Scorpion, Naquab Desert Scorpion, all that kind of stuff. It's one of the most dangerous species of scorpions. It would not normally kill a healthy adult human, but children are definitely at risk.
One might not kill a normal healthy adult human.
Hundreds? Exactly.
Hundreds?
One might not, but hundreds?
Yeah, just the thought of that really just creeped me out. I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. That makes me think of like the snakes in episode
Yes.
And
this almost
the snakes and that girl.
This almost made me feel weirder than even that. Like, I don't know. I'm just like, I don't want to ever.
Well, if a sting from it does prove deadly, the cause of death is usually pulmonary edema.
Makes sense.
So, okay, everybody. I think that was the Deathstalker.
Moving on from Scorpion.
We figured it out. Yes.
Moving on from Scorpion.
So the next scene we have, since it's nighttime, is Tim is driving the ambulance and Tommy's in the back and she's comforting her kids on her phone video chat because they had seen the news and was worried about her mom or their mom. And what does Tommy do? She comforts them.
She promises them she's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And when I heard this, I just kind of went,
yeah.
And then as soon as she gets off the phone, she looks up and she sees Tim in the rearview mirror looking at her. That was a little awkward.
Was so awkward.
Once again, this is like...
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this scene... I had several different feelings about it because, like, obviously she just did what she had told Tim not to.
Right.
But it is a little different. Because these are her kids.
Yeah. She can do whatever she wants. Parents make decisions that are very controversial and they probably shouldn't do it all the time. But these are her kids. If she wants to do something that's, I don't know, like...
This wasn't necessarily something having to do with the victim.
It'd be different.
And so it's like, okay, you probably maybe shouldn't have made that promise. And actually based on this... Oh boy, this is a scary thing to ever have to think about. But based on this episode, I have already started planning out what I'm going to tell my kids one day when I am a first responder. But at the same time, you do not need your kids worried sick about something which they aren't even there to see.
Right.
So it's like, okay, maybe not the best call, but it's not exactly the same.
I mean, they're her kids. She can do what she wants. And, like, honestly, if I was in the situation, I'd probably do the same thing. A lot of parents shield their kids from stuff, and, like, there's nothing wrong with that, but, like, it was just so awkward. I hated the scene. Kind of, like, ugh.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know, it feels weird.
Well, I think combined with the harshness of what she, like, said to Tim, and then, like, that, I think that is mainly the problem. Just, like, how much of a turnaround that was.
And even though Tim won't be there, I think this type of thing, like how she was with him, will definitely like follow her and stuff. I think they're definitely gonna.
For one thing, she lost
Yeah.
her team member, which she is captain of that team.
Right.
And then, as she later has said, the only real interaction they had was for her to scold him.
That's why, like, I'm just like, oh, that's rough.
Yeah.
But whatever. Right. So now we're actually...
Alright, so moving on to the pool party.
The pool. I don't know. This was just like...
There's so much going on in this scene.
I know.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I think my first question is when they all arrive and there's like trenches of lava. I'm like, why are you even working around that casually? Or like, I kept noticing everybody get close to a victim and they take their masks off. And I'm like, why are you doing that?
Because it's TV?
Well, apparently.
I don't even think that.
I don't know.
I think, like, that's just the reality of how things are.
And also, it's hard, both with, like, the gas masks, which they were wearing, and the regular mask. It's hard to speak through those gas masks.
Yeah.
And sometimes the victim may not be able to understand you. So really, it's a better thing. As far as, like, regular, COVID masks went, nobody was wearing one of those.
Yeah.
Right.
Though they were through much of the other
I think it's just...
scenes.
It's probably just because they can't fit all that under that or whatever It isn't... Yeah. I don't know. I don't really think of that much.
I guess maybe in that case, the least of their worries was COVID.
Yeah.
That's true. And I think just like seeing the lava trenches, and I was like, that would have been a little dangerous. Like, I know lava doesn't move that fast, so like, they could probably get ahead of it if it was just a little bit. But
it was only moving 35 miles an hour, according to the experts on the call. But still, when you're right next to it, that is pretty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love how, like, Owen starts giving out orders, and he says, TK Marjan on recovery for the guy that's in the pool. I was like, oh my gosh, I would not want to be the one to recover
They were taking pikes and just moving him, and I'm like, yeah, he was very much...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Tommy and... the team start treating this girl who's been burned by lava, I guess, or the steam, and then the other...
Okay, I loved that little, like... I loved the girl and, like, that guy who was sweet on her. Like, that was really cute. I liked that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And I love how, like, when they get her in the ambulance, and then he gets hit with that little rock, like, lava rock.
Oh my
I love how, like, Nancy and Tommy have to kind of work together to get it off of him so they can get him treated. It's like, that was a moment of... Like,
honestly, I felt for Nancy in that particular part, because she just looks stunned.
Yeah, she's just
let's be honest, you think you're not trained to handle like COVID and various other things? You are not trained to handle a volcano.
That is true. Especially in Texas.
Yeah.
Especially in Texas. Like, if there was an actual live one in the area that, like, was actually a possibility of going off, yeah, you might be trained. But as far as anyone knows, this was extinct. So, yeah, I kind of wanted to hug her.
Yeah, I know.
I get it.
And then, after they kind of treat... I love how, like, they finally get it off, and they, or one lands near them, and I love how Mateo's, like, just right there with a little extinguisher, and he's like, got it, or something, and I was like, because that was his job, was to go around and, like, put out the little spot fires.
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah. Alright, so, Spence and Tim, that little... oh my gosh, that got me.
Yeah. That was so hard.
For one thing, he wasn't able to make the same mistake of promising that he was going to be okay. And, like, you could see the struggle. And you can feel the struggle, like, yourself. You can feel that.
Yeah.
Like, you want to say it's going to be okay, but especially with a warning fresh in mind from your captain, you can't say that.
Right. Yeah.
Especially if it's a possible spinal injury and various other things. No, it's not going to be okay. Yeah. Which... I like how he was like, okay, that I will be able to promise about, like, calling his mom.
Right.
But he's like, why don't we make it a
I love that.
Yeah, I love it. He's like, you're gonna need a better lie than
Yeah.
Yes. I'm like, you know what? I think your mom's least worry will be that you were at a frat party.
Right.
Because it's like you just lived through a volcano.
Yeah.
In this, in this scene, like, at this, like, I really liked that scene and stuff. It really stood out. And then you could tell, like, it was getting towards the end. And, like, the funniest part was, like, when Tim was, like, trying to get somebody to help him. And he's like, hey, firefighter, help me transfer. And it's Owen. And he's like,
and he's like, oh, sorry,
I didn't know that was you.
No. Yeah, and Owen's like,
it's fine. He doesn't care.
Right. And like kind of just at that moment they get the they get the ground is shaking and the pool is volcanic ejecta, and then Owen's like, I was briefed.
yeah. And then he helps him transfer or whatever, and then like all of a sudden the lava rock comes down and hits Tim, and Owen's face, oh my god, I can't get that out of my head.
Oh my god. No, and it wasn't like a lava rock, it was like a lava boulder.
Right?
I mean, honestly,
it was
huge.
Yeah, there was no removing that from his chest.
No.
Even if you tried, he was all... I am willing that he was dead as soon as that hit him.
Yeah.
For one thing, the weight probably, if nothing else, crushed his chest in.
Yeah.
And
then, not to mention the fact that it was on fire.
Yeah.
And bunker
as
gear...
we hear later, there was not much
exactly.
I don't think that bunker gear will protect against 2100 degree items.
That was probably gone like
usually
that.
They are only, I think that specific bunker gear is probably only rated up to like maybe 1000 degrees, because most fires, home and residential and commercial fires, are usually maybe 800 to 900 degrees. 1000. They would have to have special equipment and special gear for anything hotter than that.
Yeah.
So that was a tough scene, and then, like, it happens, and you see Owen's face, and then we're at the station later.
Yeah.
And...
the station was, like... You could literally... I don't know how to even, like, say it, but, like, it was just, like... It didn't really hit me until the station. Like, him getting hit by the lava rock was, like, hard, but, like, it didn't really hit me till then, because it was just, like, so sad. And I am a Mateo, like, after Mateo, like, walks in and, like, oh, that was quick, and he's like, didn't ask many questions, just what I saw. I didn't feel like we were in trouble, and so it's like, yeah, why would anybody be in trouble? And Mateo's just like...
I'm like, you did not throw the rock at him.
Right,
but I am Mateo in this scene, because I always
I'm Mateo. Too.
Somebody's gonna have messed
I'm
up.
like, and he's just like, I don't know, maybe I just feel like I'm always in trouble, and I'm like, why is that me?
That's so me, oh my god.
And he said it's so sad, and I was just like, this whole scene, like, I love this scene, like, I was, like, sad, but I loved it. And, like...
And Jed's like, this ain't your fault, this ain't anybody's fault.
Right.
Yeah, and TK's just like, I wonder if they know... Like, TK was like, they're all sad, but, like, He
looked so sad. Like, his face was just kind of like, oh my gosh, he was...
I don't think...
Everyone was expressing their grief in different ways.
Right.
Like, Marjan was caring for everybody.
Yeah.
Nancy looked like... Well, of course she was crying.
Yeah.
Just somehow the fact that Judd was hugging a pillow got me.
Yeah.
Like, and then offered
you could
it to
see the
Marjan.
pain on his face, and I could see he was trying to keep the morale up, and he's recently gone through the counseling of dealing with losing his crew, and if we know this is like in September, this is probably about a year since he lost his crew, so it's really still fresh in his mind, because he's still seeking counseling from it. So,
and he would have been the only one there besides Nancy who knew Tim from before.
And like,
so, well, it didn't seem like they were particularly close. Obviously, it's your teammate. And it happened when you were right there.
I mean, I think there was obviously, like, you could tell they were all close and stuff. Like, obviously, Nancy's gonna be more close to him than anybody else, because she worked with him side by side every Shiv, but yeah, one of my friends of Judd actually had like a good point. She was like, one thing they could have done is portray Judd's PTSD with the volcano scene. And I'm like, oh yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been good to see, but I can also see why they maybe didn't. Because there was already so much happening in that scene. Maybe that just would have been a little much.
And it's not really... I feel like it was more important to show like how Nancy was feeling in this moment and not like what she was going through than like everyone else. Like, yeah, they showed everyone how everyone's dealing with it because they're all a team, but also like her like grief is probably more, not to say more important, but it's like it exactly.
Yeah,
and of them, I think Nancy's like the closest to him because they've worked together, the closest worked together.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love how she shares.
Longest and together more.
Yeah, I love how she shares too about his family. And
when she said they were in Maryland, I had a moment of coming out from grieving and going,
I was, when I watched, I was like, great.
Great.
And then all the references like to Baltimore. I'm not too far from Baltimore.
Yeah.
So it's like, thankfully further enough because... But anyway,
so I mean, so we learn about Tim and we find out, he's got family in Maryland. So he came to Austin to go to UT Austin and ended up staying. And he was supposed to go over the summer to visit family, but because of the pandemic, he wasn't able to. So it's been several years since he's been home. And then Nancy's...
And honestly, that actually struck home a little bit because I've been considering going to school in California when I finish my associate's degree, and even I've always wanted to live and work in California, so I might even stay there.
Right, which is it's like very common. I mean, especially you
fall in love with an area and you stay there.
Or you go to school and get training, and then you get picked up by a job there, and you love the job, so you stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like hearing that, it's like that, particularly with location and everything, it's like, now that strikes a little close to home. Even if I'm not even in that position yet, like the possibility of being in that position, it's like, dang.
Right. And and kind of going through just like, here we're going through, like, obviously they're grieving. So, and we've talked in the past about how grief kind of comes in for different people. It comes at different times, different lengths of time, and it hits us differently. So, like here, Nancy's like going off about talking about his family, and then she's like, "But then why did we leave him here or leave him there?" And like, we wouldn't have done that with anybody else. And I love Owen coming in and kind of giving the like very calm but upset, because that's protocol. Which we learn is when one of the team gets killed on a call, another house comes in to take care of it.
Yeah.
I've seen that
it makes
before.
sense.
Yeah. And it's like, but because the team is not in a fit position to continue working.
Yeah. Right.
And Nancy, honestly, she broke my heart a little in this particular part because, like, heroic measures right up to the hospital doors. And I'm like, there was not anything to take to the hospital unless you were taking it to the morgue.
That was so hard.
And that is what, like, felt like she was in a little bit of denial, which obviously that's common. That's part of grieving. And that's like, I can get that. But that, like, hurts to think, like, up to the hospital doors, but there's nothing to take to the hospital.
Right.
Yeah.
And
there's nothing to be done.
Yeah. I mean, it was... And I know, like, paramedics don't even have the authority to call time of death. But in this situation, they could easily just radio an ER doctor and explain the situation, and the doctor could call time of death over the radio. It's no fun, but like Owen said, it's protocol that another team would do that because all of them right there are considered family, and you're not supposed to work on your family unless it's like in a majorly emergent scene where like help can't get there in time.
Unless you have no other choice.
Right, exactly. So in this situation, they had to call in another department so then they could come in and take care of Tim so they could be family and hands off. And, we're at the scene and they're basically, because this happened, Owen had to follow protocol and call in the department, and they had to bring in their counselor and, investigators to do the, the appropriate steps with the team, because unlike like he's offering counseling and stuff to them if they need to talk about what happened.
He's like, you should talk about it.
Right.
You should.
And and it's definitely tough, but that's that's why there's protocols in place, because I just look at it as they're all family, and so they lost a family member that day. And so
I mean,
they're all grieving.
Fire department may not have some of the same mortality rates as other like first responder job, like a cop or something, but people still get killed.
Right.
And it's like, so of course there are protocols, because literally the job description is going out to risk your life.
Yeah.
So I think it's understandable that it's really hard in those situations to follow protocol, especially when it feels like you're abandoning your family member. That's what it feels like.
Right. I mean, yeah, and that's the, gosh, I remember my mom had a seizure in front of me. She's had a stroke in front of me, and that was like, but I couldn't do anything, and I'm not medically trained or anything like that, so I couldn't have done anything anyways, but it was just like, I remember being that helpless feeling, and I think in those situations, you go from being a first responder to the distraught family member.
Yeah.
And it makes it challenging.
Yeah.
And again, like the levels of grief, anger, frustration, depression, denial, all of those, like traveling through everybody. And, we also learned, like, they called in another crew to cover the 126. So Owen tells everybody to go home. And
11 hours before their shift was even done. And, it's hard to be called off for any reason, especially a death. But when those shifts come along and you get sent home early, you feel like a job's unfinished.
Yeah, right.
Especially if you're already feeling lost from losing somebody. So, I feel with TK, though, he's like, it feels weird to just leave.
Yeah.
I agree.
And, like, then, while they're still sitting there, I believe, or maybe they're not all sitting there, but some of them are sitting there, and the news comes on saying that the volcano is over, and sometimes Mother Nature has to let out some steam, or whatever, and, like, the news obviously didn't know what was happening. Obviously, it's kind of their own, like, private matter, but it was just like, oof, that was real life. I would be like, well, that hurts a little bit. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it definitely, that's what I thought, and it's, the whole thing about a fatal reminder, it's like, a whole bunch of people are actually, experiencing that fatal reminder right now. And it's like, it did seem insensitive, but also not in the wrong way. It's just, as you said, it shows not everyone knows.
Yeah,
like,
what's
not
happening.
Everyone knows, like, in your world what is happening, and that, like, other people's lives go on, even though you're, like, everyone's going through their own thing. But I think that was, like, even though it hurt a little bit, it was still, like, good to see. In a way.
Yeah.
And then we see, after everybody starts to disperse, that Judd goes to talk to Tommy as the counselors and everybody's leaving her office. I love how he's like, well, you don't have to, like, not weep in front of me if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel bad for the situation, like, because traditionally, in a non-pandemic world, if something happens to somebody, they send usually a priest of some kind and somebody to make the official announcement to the family. And so in this case, they have to send a captain from the Baltimore Fire Department to inform Tim's family, and Tommy's like, it should be me, but she can't because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And
like, that's rough.
Right.
Because I feel like maybe in this scene, I felt more connected to Tommy than with any other scene in this episode, because you can tell she's struggling as well.
And their last conversation was, like, a great one, pretty much, or not their last conversation, but, like, one of the last times they talked and stuff wasn't great. So it's gonna be hard.
Yeah. And she's beating herself up over it. And Judd has a good point. He's like, well, was it merited?
Right.
No, that is the point.
Yeah.
Was it merited?
Yeah.
And, like, it was, but that's not going to take away the guilt. Mm-hmm. It's just going to be an eventual reminder that it wasn't without point, I guess. But that's never going to be something that you can just get over.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Exactly.
the idea of just
right.
Yeah.
Plus, she's struggling with, gosh, she's only been on the job a month and she's already lost a team member, and so I'd imagine she's reevaluating. And then she does say, she's like, she doesn't want to feel like she's abandoning her family. And I'm like, I love how Jed reminded me, he's like, well, you didn't abandon them, you just added to it. She's trying to say, you know, like, now the 126 is her family again too.
Yeah.
And they are all dealing with losing a team member, a family member. So it's a lot to wrestle with. I'm curious how the future episodes are going to be. Like, I don't know if they planned on replacing
I don't think they will.
Tim, like, cast-wise. So, yeah, it's going to be curious to see where they take that.
They're keeping it super under wraps, so they are planning
I
on
honestly
replacing him. I feel like if they do, they might do it either very later in the season or next season.
I think that's more likely. I honestly don't see them, like, doing it. Like, honestly, I really don't see it. Like
they can do it with 2 paramedics.
A lot of shows do that. So, like, I don't think it's not, like, realistic, and stuff.
I'm hoping they'll eventually replace him, because I'll be interested to see if, like, what they come up with. But, like, right away, I think it'd be too soon if they replaced him now.
It'd be like, like, at least let the fans grieve a little bit, even though it's not, like, a total, like, it's not, like, a terrible loss. It's not like Owen died. But, like, still.
It's not like TK or Owen or Carlos or somebody like that died. But it's still
like,
surprisingly very loved character for a short amount of screen time.
He's very loved.
And
like, you can tell and stuff.
Yeah, so, just let the fans have their grief period, and then let's see what we can do from there.
Owen's at home, drinking his tequila on, like, his patio back porch thing. And then the first thing I noticed in this part is when he's petting Buttercup. I'm like, Buttercup's back. And we all know that I was talking about...
You made Where Buttercup.
I was like, hashtag Where's Buttercup? I was like, I need to start that, and I did. And Buttercup...
And you made a missing poster for him, too, which I love.
I had to. I was like, I need to go all out.
I'm like, this is the best thing I have seen yet. Like,
Buttercup. I was so happy when I saw Buttercup. I was like, wiping my tears, being like, oh my god, Buttercup's here. It's okay.
Right. I love that Buttercup's back. And right before this scene, I loved how Tommy finally goes to talk to Nancy.
I forgot
Nancy's
about that.
really, like, putting Tim's stuff. Putting Tim's stuff in a box, and she starts talking to Tommy about Tim, and
he was weird but good. And I'm like, that's the perfect
good description. And I Brianna Baker did
yes.
amazing. I mean, she's an amazing actress too, but she did really well in this episode. And I love how, like, all of a sudden she's like, oh no, Buster, or whatever.
And Tommy's like, Buster Keaton? Because they have been talking about Buster Keaton.
And I was like, as soon as they started talking about Buster being the cat, like Tim's cat, I was like, okay, Tommy's going to end up with a cat. And sure enough,
I knew that was going to happen before I watched the episode because I'd seen the clip of, like, them basically going their own ways and doing their own, like, grieving. So I'd seen that clip, so I'd seen the cat. Mm-hmm. But even if I hadn't seen the cat, I think that was pretty predictable.
Right.
That, like, the cat was going to have to end up with somebody, and that somebody was either going to be Tommy or Nancy.
Yeah.
And while I feel like it would have been fitting if Nancy had wound up with the cat, I think I really liked that Tommy did.
Yeah. It was Tommy's way of apologizing maybe to Tim.
It's like more meaningful.
But yes.
Plus the kids would absolutely love that they have a new cat.
Right. Yeah.
That actually was very reminiscent to me of the earthquake episode in OG, where Hen brought home the dog.
I forgot about that. Where's that dog then?
Yeah. Good question. But yes, speaking of dogs, so then we go into the scene where Owen's at home and Buttercup is there, and I was so excited to see Buttercup. Katie, I loved your little missing poster and everything.
Last scene, episode 10.
Thank you.
That is going to be iconic, even though we now know that nothing happened. But I was so worried something had happened to him, and I'm like, if they do something,
I knew it wasn't. People like they're gonna kill Buttercup, and I was like, that's ridiculous. Come on now.
I think they know better to do that because because I think the fandom would completely just riot.
Yeah, the only way they could do that is like if he actually died in real life.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a Bernese Mountain Dog. They could easily.
Yeah, they literally.
Replacement. It wouldn't be the same.
They look all the same to me, so they literally do.
Yeah, their patterning is very, very similar. If they're
I
purebreds.
I know another option is one show I like. Eventually, the dog that was in that, the real life dog was put into retirement because he was like 13 years old or something. And the handler was like, no, I'm just going to retire him. So they basically made a storyline about saying, yeah, he died, but they replaced him with like a younger counterpart. And I haven't fully watched to that point yet. I just know it happens. But I'm like, that is another good option because sometimes the dogs just get a little too old to work.
Yeah. It's just like police dogs. They work for 6 or 7 years and then they retire them so they can spend their last few years of life, with their family and as a family dog. And
sometimes with their handler, if their handler should decide to adopt them if the dog does not have another owner, which I think is sweet.
Yeah, I love that option. And it also goes to show like when a canine officer, and I, it's happened around here a few times. There's been a few canine officers that have passed away from in the line of duty, and just the support for the animal and the department just because of that, I think it's just awesome. But also when those dogs do get the retirement, and even like I've even seen like retired dogs, but then they're still with their handlers and then they're getting sick and like they have to be put to sleep because of some cancer or something, and it's very powerful. But anyways, that's not what we're talking about right now.
But anyway, so, I mean, the scene isn't exactly happy, this one, with Owen sitting there. I love that they have the ash falling.
Yeah, me too.
Because, that's
exactly what would happen. I actually have ash from Mount St. Helens, which is the mountain that erupted in 1980 here in Washington State.
Oh,
I love geography and all that stuff. That's a conversation for another
I love
day.
how Gwen was like basically telling Owen that he shouldn't be sitting outside breathing in the ash. And he's like, "What's the worst that could happen? I get more cancer."
She goes,
and she's like, "As a matter of fact, yes."
Yeah, and then like Owen tells her that he lost. He's like, "I lost one of my paramedics today, or one of my."
Obviously, that was a different take because they couldn't reveal it in the promo, even though like everybody knew.
Well, if they said, like this, if they said, even if he said like if he said like somebody on my team died today, like people would think that it's not Tim or Nancy and stuff. So like
having the one of our own.
It really to throw us off, even though we all knew it, because like we just knew, okay. And like this scene, like the one part that really got me is like him being like he wasn't even 5 feet away from me. Like 1 minute,
he was having that moment. He was having
like 1 minute he was alive, 1 minute he wasn't. Just like the last time. Oh, just saying that.
And that was hard because I'm like, that makes me think, okay, was he actually in the towers when it collapsed?
Maybe.
Or maybe he was talked about him like, well, is he off or was he not in the tower?
I think it really just like was him saying that like they were there like rescuing and stuff, and then like probably like something else happened, and then some people from his team died.
And, well, his entire house
exactly.
died, which has happened before, and did happen in 9/11, where entire stations were wiped out.
Right.
And, obviously, he never dealt with survivor's guilt from there, and now he really is having it. And, like, I really felt for him in this scene, because yeah, that is, that's a difficult thing to walk away from, but no, someone else didn't.
Right. Well, and especially because he was so, like, physically close when that happened.
Yes.
Like, it could have easily been him that had been hit.
Yeah, like if he tried shoving Tim out of the way, or if the rock had just gone a little bit to the right, it could have been him.
I could have seen, like, if this was, like, if they were going to, like, this has never happened, but just, and for pretend circumstances, like, I could see Owen being, like, the hero and pushing Tim out of the way so that way he would take it and not him. But, like, obviously they weren't actually going to do that, but, like, I could see that in real life scenarios.
Because you mentioned it, I'm just saying this, I'm now watching footage of the Mount St. Helens eruption. Because, like, I don't know why, but I'm just doing it.
Yeah, it's pretty... I wasn't born yet, thankfully. But my parents were, and living in my hometown. And, it's...
Largest and most destructive volcanic eruption in U.S. history. 57 people died. Yeah,
and there were some people, like, they were trying to evacuate people, and they just couldn't get them out, and, but I love our history here, and, like, Mount Rainier is actually closer to me than Mount St. Helens, and so it's an active volcano. Like, it could erupt any day. But around here, like, because you get...
would you like to move with me to California?
No, there's earthquakes down in California.
Yeah.
Because we have them here too. But what gets me, because like here in Washington we have so many mountains that have water, like snow on them. So like in Texas it's so dry and there's no snow, so they're getting just the lava. Here we get what they call lahars, which is when the heat from the lava melts all those all the snow caps on the mountains, and then it's like these mud slides, like gushing mudslides, and those travel down, and that's what kind of caused a lot of the damage in the Mount St. Helens area. So it's like it's different. Like even in the U.S., we have such different landscapes. That's why there's such difference. So like around here, we don't really have like lava flow. We have, I'm sure underground we do, but it's just like on the surface. When Mount St. Helens erupted, it was mostly lahars that caused the damage.
The plume of smoke here looks like Hiroshima, honestly. Yeah. Like the photos that have been captured of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Which again, which is why I love the geography and just kind of all the volcanology and stuff about it. And that has nothing to do with Star Trek.
All right, sorry, I went down a hole with that. Okay. But it was very interesting.
And I love during this scene with Gwen and Owen that there's like she's trying to comfort him, and I love Buttercup. He was definitely like super comfortable, like he was sitting and laying there, and I love at one point he's laying on his side or like waiting for pets, and I was like, oh, that's so Buttercup. And he's trying to be there, and I'm like, this song that they started playing was Hallelujah, and I'm like, I don't care.
Oh my gosh, that rendition,
it was the best one I've ever heard.
Oh my gosh. I love that song so much. Yes.
I recently heard Pentatonix's version, and that one's really good, but this one is too. The song is just perfect for this scene. Or this montage.
Yeah. It really is. Like, it was so peaceful and, like, reflective, and when I heard the song, I was like, I know I'm going to cry during this, and I did. That's when I started crying, the aftermath. Like seeing them go home, I'm like, okay, I'm crying.
It sort of started for me like when he right after he gets hit, and then when they're in the station, and then like this really hit harder and stuff. Like we all see their own.
I think I didn't cry during them because I knew that happened. For one thing, I couldn't watch it for a while, but I asked you, Katie, I was like, whoa, were we right?
I was like, yeah, we were.
And I'm like, I probably bad, but I felt elated that we actually were right.
I know. Like, I was like...
But then I had a moment going, oh, yeah, that is sad.
So we see them all, like, do their own thing. Like, Mateo's, like, running, and I feel like that's just, like, so on brand for him. Like, he's always, like... In, like, several episodes, he's, like, running, like, him thing. Can't relate.
Yeah.
Can't relate. The last time I ran, couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
When did I get out of
I was
high
going to
school?
make a joke, but then I realized that you guys probably wouldn't get it if you don't watch Studio C. So I'm not
And
going to
then,
make that joke.
I was, right about the Marjan and Paul boxing scene. I knew that it had to be in this episode just because of, her... Yeah,
because the emotion.
Exactly.
It's like,
and,
yes.
So I was like, ooh, got that one. And then the best
got that in
scene out of the whole...
Yes.
TK goes home to Carlos, so he, I have...
Okay. TK has keys to Carlos's apartment or condo or whatever we're calling it. That was my first.
Oh yeah,
he has keys to
Carlos's.
Carlos's.
That was such a sweet scene.
Yes, I love it. Also, I love how they just randomly added stairs.
Yes, I was about to get into that. Okay, I was telling
sorry
about this the other day. I was like, okay, obviously they added on to Carlos's apartment. She's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, they added stairs. She's like, no, those have been there. I'm like, not in episode 2. How would they would have ran into the stairs when they were making out? What are you talking about? There were no stairs. There were no stairs. And yeah,
but it was definitely larger. I couldn't help wondering if they actually. Carlos
I thought that too. I was like, Carlos moved. Okay,
which maybe it could have been, but it looks very similar.
The layout is the same downstairs.
Yes.
They just added the stairs. And I was like, why would they add the stairs unless we're going to get a bedroom scene?
Please.
Sorry.
I'm like, just saying.
Give it to us.
Okay, so I have seen this played out in tons of fan fiction since the episode premiered. But I actually think this is true. I think TK had his reaction of going, thank God it wasn't my dad, before anything else.
Yeah.
Because they were right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he could have had that moment of going, crap, that's my dad.
Yeah.
Right.
Before he realized that it wasn't.
I think...
Yeah.
And that can bring on some guilt. Of,
that's probably why he was
it wasn't
acting the way he was at the station. About
honestly,
asking the family, or telling the family. Because I feel like he was kind of in that numb, I could have just lost my dad, and I didn't, and I'm glad, but what about Tim's family, or,
having the conflicting emotions of, I'm a horrible person because I'm glad it wasn't my dad.
Right.
But honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being relieved it wasn't your dad. Even though that is definitely very conflicting in that moment. So, I don't know, I've seen so many great fanfics come out of that, and I'm like, I think that was part of it.
Well, yeah. Okay, back to this. So many thoughts. So, apparently, originally, Ronan said that, they were supposed to be standing and hugging, but Rafa, genius guy, genius man,
genius boy,
he suggested that they do the stairs or whatever, sit on the stairs, and TK basically just crawls into his arms and folds.
So perfect. Thank you, Raphael.
And they showed this scene for a split second in the previous promo, and I was like, I guarantee this is going to be in the next episode. And I thought about it more as the week went on. I was like, okay, I guarantee this is going to be in the next episode. If when Tim dies, I just had a feeling. I honestly didn't think it was going to be because Tim died. I thought maybe it'd have to do with a different scene, but I thought it was going to be within the next couple episodes. But yeah,
I love it because it's just kind of, oh my gosh. For one thing, it's a TARLOS scene, and guys, we all love that. But also, it just held such power, the head kiss. Oh my gosh.
And he's
just
kind of
collapsing into
Carlos is just kind of wrapping his arms around him and holding him. And TK could have gone anywhere. He could have gone home to Buttercup. He could have, gone out and but he went to Carlos's, and he's got keys, which means there's their relationship is
I mean,
I don't think that they're exchanging keys.
I don't think it's as people are oh my god, he has keys, he's moving in. I'm like, no, that's unrealistic.
No,
some people.
No, but it's nice that
I think it's more Carlos gave him a key because his life at home can be hectic sometimes, and so if he ever needs to get away, he can just come over, and it's not
right.
he just...
Probably because, like, they have different shifts. Mm-hmm. Maybe Carlos will be asleep, and TK wants to let himself in and, like, go up to bed. Like, whatever it is, and I want more expansion on that.
Me too. Yes.
But I just love it, and I think it's actually extremely sensible.
And, like, people being like, well, does Carlos have a key to TK's place? And I'm like, no, that'd be weird. Like, that's his dad's house. Like, that's just weird. No.
Yeah, he has a bedroom at his dad's place.
He's only living with his dad because he could move out, but, like, that'd just be weird. Okay, moving on.
Right. Yes, but yes. And so my only side note about Carlos' place, I was noticing the masks on the wall.
Yes!
And I was like, those are really cool. And I don't recognize them. Like, I don't recognize, like, the traditional or the culture that they come from. But I'm wondering if they're traditional masks from, like, where they're placing Carlos's family, or if they're, I don't know, traditional Brazilian masks, and they're kind of in representation of Raphael. I don't know. I saw those and I was like, oh, those are really cool. Because I've seen them in other episodes with Carlos's place. And I was like, I wonder what those mean. All right. So after that amazing Tarlos scene, Judd goes home to Grace and kind of lays in bed with her. It's not really sleeping, but I love that scene, just seeing them together.
I like her hand going to cover his, like,
Yeah.
And then we see Mateo running, and his jog or run ends at a church. So I'm
know.
like, oh.
Everyone said that. Like, I was like, because when I was watching, I was like, is he running to a church? But I was like, I don't think he was running to a church to go to a church. I think he was
wound
running
up there.
Yeah, I don't think it was random. Like planned. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think he was going there. Like,
and that's how the spirit moves. You know, you just have that moment, and you're like, oh, you know what? And like in the process of your day, you're just like, oh, this is where I ended up. Must be for a reason. And so, and then obviously,
I think even if you're not religious, places like churches or even if you're from another religion and may not exactly follow that, like whatever place of worship.
Right.
Those are just good places to be, especially I think for a situation like this, because they're like soul quieting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
they're a sanctuary.
They're literally a sanctuary.
So I'm curious if we will be introduced to any of that in Mateo's life, like because you know he's we know he was a dreamer, so he came from, I believe he said, Mexico. Mm-hmm. So see, that could be a part of his life and his past, and maybe he's been away from the church. So we'll see if that is something, or if it was just he just ended up there, and this was his moment to that's his way of grieving losing Tim. And then
I do hope they expand on that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And then after that, we see Tommy coming home with some stuff in her hands, and she sets this thing down and goes and checks on her daughters. And then when she comes back out to the kitchen, she's getting a bowl of milk and opening up this little kennel, and turns out it's the cat.
Buster!
It's Buster. Oh. So she went and got Tim's cat and brought him home. So I thought that was really sweet. It's kind of a good memory to Tim.
Yeah. I do hope we see the cat more too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, everything that we got here, we don't lose in later episodes.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so the final scene of this episode is 200 miles northwest of Austin, just outside of San Angelo State Park, and we've got this guy trying to light a fire in the middle of the woods.
He only looks to be like 19 at most.
Right?
Like, he looks to be like late teens.
And he's like failing miserably at
and he's so upset.
He's he like gets it a little bit and then it blows out, and I'm just like laughing over here like
I could not do any better, let's be honest here.
Yeah, it's just funny. Like it's kind of funny.
And then, but so I had a moment where you're hearing random sounds and you see the fire like leap out of the little pit. I'm like, wait, I thought the volcano was going to be the forest fire, but or the wildfire, but like this kind of thing does start fires, so I was like, okay, what are they doing? But then you put it out and I'm like, oh, so it was meant to like make you think that for a second.
Right.
Yeah.
Well yeah,
and then like the volcano like probably started things and stuff, because that's usually what happens. Like one thing starts another thing, starts another thing.
Reaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you see the animals running out.
Yeah,
and this is my philosophy with everything. When the animals start running, you start running.
Right?
Because they know what's happening. And just because we think we're smarter than animals, we are not. And we need to get out of there.
Then again, they're coyotes. I don't know if I'd want to be running alongside a coyote. No, thank you.
And that moment, I don't think they actually cared about anything because they ran straight
They were
past
just a
him.
stampede. They weren't focusing on any food or anything. But
Still,
I pulled this up because I wanted to look. So, because as we'll talk about in a moment when we talk about the promos, there is one promo where Owen is saying it's going to hit the city, and we all thought Austin because obviously it's set in Austin. But so actually Owen says it's on a crash course with St. Angelo, which is a town northwest of, it's 200 miles northwest of Austin. And so is the state park. So
technically they were pulled from their district.
Which is very common.
Especially in-state.
In-state team just goes to volunteer help, and then when it gets out of hand and they can't handle it anymore, then they bring out-of-state.
Which this is, California is famous for their wildfires, and their entire, California fire department will go to fight these. It doesn't matter what district they're from or anything, they go to fight them. And so this is the same thing happening here, but just like with California, sometimes they're going to pull in other states.
Yeah.
I do not know why they pulled in California particularly, because California and Texas are not right next to each other.
they're not that far from each other, though.
They're not far from each other, but they're not bordering each other.
They're also, they're wildfire experts, so that's probably why they did that.
Probably.
I've seen multiple shows that have done that, where they would have people from other states come to California for wildfires, and or, California would go somewhere else, so... It's because they're experts. And
they're used to this.
And last January, when Australia was having all those big, nasty fires, I know here in Washington and California sent a lot of firefighters. Because we have a lot of wildland firefighters in, our area that, wasn't doing anything because our time of year was winter, and so we didn't need as many of them.
Yeah.
So they were able to go to Australia to help fight the fires down there.
Yeah.
So anyways, so the end of the show ends with, as they're pulling back on the camera, you see across the way there's this big hillside that's just burning.
And I'm just boy, start running now.
Yeah, start running because
very,
that will go
very
fast.
Oh yeah. Fire.
You want to get out of there.
There's a reason why it's said. There's a saying, spreads like wildfire. It goes fast.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see if we're going to see them rescuing the kid.
Yeah.
I'm calling him a kid because he looks so young. Which I'm sure they 19. Will, or follow that up to some degree. But I don't know. I want to see that.
Yeah.
Right. So that is the end of 202 Lone Star, and then we have some promos that we've seen throughout the week.
Yeah, well, even before that, I always love hearing what other people think about the episode. So
yeah,
I love that. Somebody said most heartbreaking thing I've ever seen. I loved it, but it also hurts so much. I may not be able to rewatch the episode, and I feel that. I started the episode writing notes on it as it was happening, and then I just had to stop because I was like, okay, I cannot. There's too much is happening. And
honestly, I'm the complete opposite. I would watch it over and over again. Because I'm that person.
I'm same, but I feel this so much. It was so heartbreaking, but I feel that.
Sometimes, even if you do rewatch it, sometimes you need to skip over those scenes, that really get you.
Yeah.
Because it's you can't just keep watching them.
Yeah. No. This one just takes it, perfectly beautiful and heart-wrenching. Yeah, I feel that. That's, so accurate.
So
then the last one, it was sad, really sad, and although we all kind of had an idea it was Tim, it was still a shock, and I feel that because we knew it, and I wasn't it's Tim. Like, I knew it was Tim, but, like, it was also, like, the way it happened, like, I didn't necessarily expect.
Well, like, we knew we got caught by a volcano rock, but I think it was still a little bit of shock when it happened. Plus, they, like, angled the camera down. Yeah. So, like, you could see for a very split second, like, him just lying there with the rock buried in his, everything, because it's a very big boulder.
This just popped in my head.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this just popped in my head about, like, that scene. When, like, he was just laying there and Owen was just, like, realizing what happened, and the guy that Tim was treating was just like, Tim? I was like, oh no.
That was such a hard one.
I forgot about that until now. But last thought.
Like, that is...
That was sad.
Fortunately, and I think we forgot to mention this, but during the Nancy and Tommy scene, Tommy said that she'd received word that Spence was going to walk again.
Oh, yeah.
Which I feel like that was fitting tribute to, like, Tim.
Yeah.
Like, still doing his jobs, like, straight to the last, good paramedic.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of thing. And I think it would have been so much, like kind of right place, wrong time, and I think, like, the added blow of it not even, like, turning out for the best, with the patient, like, that would have been even harder blow to his memory.
Yeah.
So I was glad that they added something about that.
But yeah, promos.
Yes,
okay, let's
promos.
go.
Oh gosh, we have so many.
Yeah, well, I
feel like they're all smaller ones, though. Like,
and
it's
like,
a lot of
talk about everything.
Once again, I have not watched all of these promos, but I've seen several of them. What can I say? I guess I'm better at watching promos when the season isn't happening.
No, I'm like the opposite. Like, even if I don't watch an episode live, I look up the promo the second I know they drop. I look them up because I need to know. Like, I want to see it. I'm like the worst person. Like,
Katie, I am the same way. You are not the only one.
Cool.
Like,
and I'm just sitting here like, okay.
And I'm like, well, for me, I'm 3 hours behind you guys. So when you guys,
so you don't have much choice,
right? So then I'm like, well, I'll just find out what the promo is for next week because I'm like, I kind of know what's going to happen today, like in this episode. So then, like, get the promo because usually, like, Spoiler TV or one of the other kind of spoilery networks will air, or TV Line will have the promo up pretty quickly right after the show.
Yeah, I would just go on YouTube because they post it like literally a minute after it happens. So I'm just like, just do that.
Yeah. I mean, like, part of it is I just don't take the time to watch them.
Yeah, that's understandable.
And also, it's just kind of like, I feel like for these, I just kind of want to experience the episode and maybe not have as much build-up. And also, I am busy with school.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah.
But so we got
so the 911 promo with the crossover. I kind of love... I think I really love the element of, like, Eddie coming back to Texas, but, like, Buck and Hen... I don't know if Buck's been to Texas before, but Hen blatantly says she's never been to Texas.
It'll be fun. Plus, I've never been to Texas. I love that line.
Yeah, and I love how, like, Buck and Eddie are standing next to each other and they're exchanging those glances, and it was kind of like, oh, man... Mom's coming to,
what do you
think
think we're going to be
boys'
doing?
Weekend or something. I was like,
oh my gosh, I love it. Oh man. Yeah. And I guess I can kind of understand where Buck comes from by saying, like, do you think it's going to be weird fighting fires with other departments?
Yeah.
Because, I can kind of get, like, the question.
I feel like a lot of people say that, like, it's like you're going somewhere that's not your territory, so to speak, and you have to know,
different departments have different
rules,
ways of doing things,
Well, like, something that might be, like, a rule in, or not Austin, LA might not be a rule in Austin, like, kind of like how when Owen went from New York to Texas and him thinking that he tells medical what to do.
Yeah, like protocols are
so,
different.
like, the same thing could be from LA to Texas.
Yeah.
Well, and also, too,
so
like...
that's what my thought.
Yeah. Well, and I think, too, like, local jurisdictions are different, but, like, I know they were talking about when Katrina happened in New Orleans. It's been talked about how the U.S. Coast Guard came in and helped with rescues, and how it didn't matter like who was on the helicopter, no matter where you got trained, because you got trained the same way. You know, which is, so it's really cool. So you like have that the differences of like the military, because the Coast Guard's a military branch that have training all over, but they're all trained the same. Whereas like every fire department is different, but it also makes sense because every fire department is dealing with different types of fires and situations. Like, you know, Colorado, there's a lot of snow, or exactly.
Yeah.
So we got Texas, it's drier, so they have less snow, but they have
even Bobby coming from Minnesota,
Bobby,
and like
Minnesota,
having a couple times,
to LA, and
that's a switch.
literally,
that's a
huge culture shock too.
Oh my god,
yeah,
Lone Star promo.
The Lone Star promo.
Yeah. So Owen just warns the team that they have to stop this beast. I don't know if I may have seen this particular promo, but I'm recognizing parts of it. So like, okay, let's just go into this.
Being like, Buck, wake up!
The way his face
here.
is just smushed against.
Yeah,
he's just like, huh?
Huh? What?
And he's like,
okay. And my favorite.
Okay, I gotta ask, like, who was driving the damn fire truck?
Probably somebody else.
Because they have the 118 logo, but only Buck, Eddie, and Hen were heading down.
Right, well, there probably was other team, but they didn't feature them because they're just like background characters.
They're probably honestly real firefighters if I think about it, because I know like other shows do that where they don't have like the actors for the most part drive the trucks. They actually have somebody that's actually trained to do it.
Yeah.
So it could be one of those things, but like,
because you have to have a special license to drive a fire truck. You can't just have just a driver's license.
Yeah. And
because that's a specific amount of equipment.
Right. Yeah, that's just, my favorite part of this whole promo is just Jeff being like, what are you waiting for, Hollywood? Let's roll out. I love that. I love that so much. It's just like so him. And then the guy that's like, I think he's like operating the helicopter, that guy, he's like, it's not safe to send anybody up there. And hence, like, and then like another part of it is like Hen being like, we're really about to do this, and Owen's like, what choice do we have? And I was like, I love that pairing. I just do.
Yes, and then I'm so excited.
Like, from a distance, you see like, I think they're watching the helicopter crash, so like Marjan's like, oh god, and then Owen's like calling for Mayday. They're going down and see the crash, and then Buck running for Hen, calling for Hen, and then TK's yelling, Dad.
So like my whole thought is, like, originally when we heard about, like, the crossover, we heard that, like, Hen and Owen will have a fight for their life, but, like, honestly, as I've seen this, I'm kind of thinking about it, and, like, I don't think it's going to be as serious as they, like, said it in, like, an actual episode description. Like, I think it's more like their helicopter goes down and they have to figure out, like, how to get out or and stuff like that.
Well, it looks like they're taking care of the injured helicopter pilot.
Right.
If I've seen, like, what I've seen well enough.
But I don't think it's as dramatic as they're making it out to be. Like, I don't think they're going to be, like, in the hospital.
It kind of looks like they have to be hunkered down. Waiting
like
for rescue. Some sort of cave, some sort of...
I don't think it'll be serious, though, because I think people are expecting them, like, end up in the hospital. I'm like, that really doesn't make any sense. But,
because we see them after the helicopter goes down. We see them
that's what I'm saying.
And it's like, okay, none of them are dying.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we do not know about the helicopter pilot, but at least Hen and Owen do not appear to be dying.
Yeah.
So, I think it's the fight for their life, as in they just have to wait for backup to get there. And obviously, they're in the middle of a wildfire.
Well, when they're sitting
there's always a
When they're
risk.
sitting in the cave, I also kind of noticed they're sharing an oxygen tank. So what I'm wondering is if they, like, had to hunker down in, like, a cave or something, and it's near where the fires are, so they're losing oxygen. So the fight for their life may just be, like, they're running out of air because, like, the fire's all around
the fire lines are... Or the fire lines are drawing towards them.
And they're running out of, like,
what it is.
breathable air because of the smoke.
Yeah.
Anyways, I
I'm so
looking
excited to see
forward
this.
Hen and Owen working together. I kind of wish we would have had Bobby and Owen working together, just to have the two captains. But I
honestly,
understand
I'm looking more
Bobby didn't go.
forward to Hen and Owen than I would Bobby and Owen.
Yeah.
Even though I think that would be an epic working pair.
Well, the good
I think.
Yeah. Well, and Hen is a paramedic, so we've got the paramedic, and then Owen not, because I don't think he's certified as a paramedic.
Well, that's what he told Ellen in episode 2 of the first season, but
I think that was more like he didn't want to work on her.
I think he just had that pressure going, not certified.
I think that was just like, no, like I'm not talking to you.
But I don't feel like he's certified, at least not enough to do much beyond basic EMT, because every firefighter has to be trained as an EMT.
Right.
Yeah, like basic skills, yeah.
But that is not the same as being trained fully as another level of emergency medical technician or paramedic. Because paramedic's a whole nother level.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's not the same thing. It's a whole nother level.
Well, Hen and Chimney are like firefighter paramedics, so they're fully trained in both fields, but they just primarily are medics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then
and we see there's a second cross, because a lot of these are sharing a lot of the same clips from other promos that we've seen, like even since they started. So there's like there's a few lines that like we catch that are different, or we get more context to them.
Yeah, like Eddie's saying like, let's roll out, and he's like coming around to like the truck and stuff.
I'm
and be
loving
like,
the Eddie content we're finally getting. I love it. It's like, welcome to Texas, Buck.
Yeah, no, and like, we already talked about that. Never mind. Moving on. So the sneak peek when Buck's like, no. He's like, oh no, oh we're here. He's like, what's up with the air? And hence like wildfire. Remember, that's why we're here. And Buck's just like, I mean, how it feels. And
it's like getting slapped with a wet rag.
That's humidity.
And then he's like, that's
Texas,
humidity.
Buck.
Welcome to Texas, Buck.
I love that.
I was like, Buck, welcome to my life.
And I was like,
because I forget that California doesn't have like humidity.
It's very dry.
So I always forget that. Like, I'm just like, I'm so used to humidity because that's how it is where I live. Yeah. It's like just humidity all the time.
Like I think I heard that like Northern California was more like wet and humid, but not where LA is. LA is in the southern part,
right?
And that's a lot more dry.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And
I kind of love the level of comfort with this though, and like the various different reactions that we're seeing to them just arriving. For one thing, that must have been one very long trip.
Yeah. And they definitely, like, people are like, did they drive there? Well, yeah, like, they have to bring their equipment. They can't just be like, hey, I'm going to bring, like, tons and tons of equipment onto an airplane.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, a lot
and
of
they can't all fit in the 126 truck.
Right. And those trucks are used for, the current, Austin. So if they're away from Austin, they're not going to have all their gear. And
plus extra water storage.
Water storage.
Yes.
So there's a lot of reasons why. Yeah. So I'm glad they drove the truck. They probably took one of the old, like, backup, trucks. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I remember correctly, the 118 has 3 trucks.
Yes, they probably
or 2 trucks and an ambulance. So, yeah.
Yeah, they have a regular
engine, getting one of the older ones, I feel like
the ambulance. Yeah. Wow, I mean, so I don't know, I'm really looking forward to it. So you guys are going to hear, you'll be seeing the episode tonight. We're recording this on Saturday before the crossover, so we're excited. I know you guys will probably be if you're listening to this on Monday. If you're not listening to this on Monday, the episode will already have aired. But we're excited. I'm excited for the promo or for the crossover.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like right now I'm getting more excited.
Yeah. Well, now we know a lot more than we did.
Yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to what happens.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to how I'm looking forward to how they introduce it. And
I do have some hesitations about various different things, which I won't go into on here. Like,
we can talk
follow
about
me on
next
Twitter.
week.
You saw my rant last night. But
yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely, like, I don't want to, like, say anything too soon,
Right.
but I'll definitely, like, we can always touch on it next week about, like, our opinions of how the first ever crossover for this went and stuff.
Yeah, they've mentioned maybe doing others, haven't they?
Yeah.
Well, I
I'm
think
sure
this
they
will
Which I'll
will.
be
open it up
interested
too, because I mean, at least they'll get connections. Like the 118 and the 126 will have connections.
Yeah.
So then that will kind of maybe open up to one of them visiting the other, so other things can cross over.
Yeah.
I don't know, we'll see.
I mean, anything's possible. I think if I remember correctly, either Ryan Murphy or one of the other producers wasn't open to crossover, and now we're getting a crossover. Probably because of the fans wanting one so much. Let's see.
Well, maybe.
But I'm, like, waiting on the writers to make sure they get this right.
Right. And I just want to send out props to John Owen Lowe, because he's the one that wrote the bulk of the crossover episode.
Yeah, he like,
he
co-wrote it.
Yeah, so Rob is probably a very proud papa.
Did you guys see the video on his Instagram the other day where he was like basically telling Rob what to do?
Yeah, and
it was so funny.
And, like, he only calls his dad Rob. Him and his
That's so
him
weird.
And his brother don't call their dad anymore. They call him by their first names.
I that's so weird. Like,
I've seen people do that, and I'm like, I cannot. But
yeah,
okay,
that's weird.
But
and I mean, we got so much these past couple of days, but obviously we're not talking about everything,
right?
Because we don't want this to be like 3 hours long.
This will not be,
we don't want to get too carried away.
Plus, there's some stuff coming up that we're excited for, but we want to get
and
through the crossover. So we'll talk
we'd
about
rather
it
have
later.
we'd much rather have our opinions be like not talk about too much and then have nothing to talk about in the actual episodes that these happen in. Like, so I'm just saving it.
Yes.
Okay.
You should see our text messages. That's what
honestly.
Oh my gosh.
But all in all, 2100 Degrees was a pretty good episode. I mean, it was definitely emotional. Definitely. Bummed to see losing Tim. I hope Tim rests in peace in TV heaven. And Mark Elias will definitely be missed on the cast. He's awesome. So if Mark ever hears this, we wish you well, and we'll keep in touch, I'm sure, because we'll always rewatch season 1, and we'll always have Tim in season 1 and stuff.
You're stuck with us.
You're
basically
part of the 911 Lone Star fandom for life. Actually, the 911 fandom as well, because you were in an episode of 911.
Yes.
He was the runaway groom.
Love that.
Yeah, I was going.
2.
Wait, what episode was that?
I think it was right before the earthquake.
It was. Yeah, it was. Under pressure.
It was. I think it was the first or second episode of season 2 of 911.
First.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then like Julian was in like one of those episodes. I forget which one it was.
Also in that episode.
Yeah, he was the kid that was stealing the.
He was the kid with the pink hair.
Marvin.
Yeah, and he stole the.
Marvin.
He hot wired a car. And he stole it, and then he ends up helping Athena with it. Yeah, so we've got But anyways, Mark.
I didn't realize they were both in the same episode together. Wow.
Oh, yeah. I was like, they must have been. Like, I was thinking about it, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Small world.
That's fun.
Yep. Right. Mark, you'll be missed. Well, thank you so much for listening and joining us. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Anchor. We're also on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcast, and almost anywhere else you can find podcasts. On iTunes, please rate us and leave us a review. It would mean a lot to us. You can follow the podcast on our socials at 911LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
You can follow me, Katie, at For Love of TARLOS on Instagram, at For Love of TARLOS on Twitter.
You can follow me, Grace, at RonanRathlin911 on Instagram and at SheepGirl31 on Twitter.
You can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Instagram and Twitter.
All right.
Bye.
That's that.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.